My husband claimed he was training for a marathon. His running partner turned out to be a woman he met at a seminar. When I confronted him, he said, "You're just overthinking." It wasn't overthinking when I moved on without him. I'm a 41-year-old woman living in Fort Collins, Colorado. I work in human resources for a mid-sized tech company. I've been married to Rick for 13 years. Or rather, I was. Rick's a software engineer. Always a quiet guy. Smart, introverted, not flashy. He liked solving puzzles, watching documentaries, and sitting in silence for hours. I used to find that calming. Now I look back and realize he was just emotionally checked out from the beginning. Our marriage wasn't anything special, but it was solid, or so I thought. We had our routines. Groceries on Saturday, his parents' place every second Sunday, vacation at the same damn cabin in Estes Park every year since 2011. Nothing thrilling, but stable. 2 years ago, Rick decided to start running. It began with a 5K for charity with his coworkers. Then came 10 Burmese Chats, half marathons, and eventually, he signed up for the Fort Collins Marathon. I was proud of him. He had a gut from sitting at his desk all day, and now he was dropping weight, had more energy. I cheered him on. I didn't even think twice when he said he needed to train after work. He'd come home sweaty and exhausted, toss his socks into the laundry, mumble about his pace and splits, and pass out on the couch. I'd nod, pretending to care, scrolling on my phone. Then things changed. Slowly, quietly. The first thing I noticed was the phone. Rick used to leave it lying around. Now he kept it in his pocket or right next to him at all times. Even brought it into the bathroom. Once I saw it light up when he was in the shower, and he jumped out soaking wet to grab it. That was odd. I teased him about it once. Said, "What, you got secrets in there?" He laughed, but it felt fake. "No, just work stuff. Security, you know." Right. Then came James, his supposed new running partner. I didn't think anything of it at first, but something didn't sit right. I asked about James. What did he do? Rick said DevOps, like that explained anything. But there were no stories about him. No mentions of how he ran, what they talked about, nothing. It was like James was a ghost. So I got curious. One Saturday morning, Rick said he and James were running a new trail. I knew that trail. I'd walked it plenty. I figured I'd surprise them, bring cold water, maybe a protein bar. Something nice. He wasn't there. I waited half an hour, walking back and forth. Then I called. No answer. Straight to voicemail. When he got home 2 hours later, he looked normal. Sweaty. Tired. Happy even. How was the run? I asked. Good. James and I pushed hard. That last mile nearly killed me. I smiled. What time did you get there? He blinked. 8? Why? I shrugged. Just wondering. That night, while he snored next to me, I took his phone. Used his thumb to unlock it. I wasn't prepared for what I found. Her name was Jenna. She was not James. They'd been texting daily for weeks. She sent photos. Not dirty ones, but cozy ones. Her in a sweatshirt. Her holding coffee. Her at a trailhead. There were heart emojis. Flirty banter. Inside jokes. One message hit me hard. When are you going to tell her? This hiding is making me feel gross. There it was. I didn't wake him up. I didn't cry. I took screenshots of everything and airdropped them to my phone. Then I deleted the airdrop history, put his phone back, and stared at the ceiling all night, wide awake. The next day, I waited until after breakfast. We were doing dishes. I turned to him and said, "So, how's Jenna?" He froze. Just stood there with soap on his hands. "What?" he said, voice sharp. "Your running partner. You know, the one from the seminar in Denver." He tried to play dumb. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Stop lying," I said flatly. "I saw your messages." "I saw everything." He went pale. Then angry. "You went through my phone?" You lied to my face for months. She's just a friend, he snapped. You're overthinking. That's when I knew he'd never admit it. Never take accountability. So I smiled. You're right. I probably am. He looked relieved. Like he'd dodged something. He didn't realize I had already called a divorce attorney the night before. I didn't leave right away. That would have let him off too easy. I stayed. I cooked. I acted like nothing was wrong. But every night after he fell asleep, I worked on my exit plan. Quietly, carefully, methodically. I stayed for 4 more months. During that time, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed him goodnight. I folded his laundry. I packed his lunches, sometimes with notes like, "Good luck on your run," just to twist the knife a little deeper. What he didn't know was that I was also pulling money from our joint account. Small amounts, nothing big enough to raise suspicion. I started a new account under just my name. I got a P.O. box. I scanned all our important documents, tax returns, mortgage paperwork, insurance info. I made digital copies and stored them on a flash drive I kept taped under my desk drawer at work. I also started going to therapy. Not for him. For me. Because if I was going to leave, I needed to do it with a clear head. I needed to get strong again. I had spent too long being quiet, polite, small. The more I sat in those sessions, the more I realized how much of myself I'd given up over the years just to keep peace in our house. Rick made everything about himself. If he was stressed, I had to tiptoe. If he was in a good mood, I had to pretend everything was okay. I was sick of it. Then came the day everything changed. I was driving home from work when I saw his car parked outside a small diner on the edge of town. I recognized Jenna immediately. She was sitting across from him in a booth, laughing. His hand was on hers. I didn't get mad. I took a photo. Then I went home and made a plan. First, I contacted a realtor. Quietly, I had the house appraised. It was in both our names, but the down payment had been from my inheritance. I made sure I had proof of that. Next, I called Rick's company and pretended to be doing a background check. They confirmed he still worked there. Good. I would need those pay stubs. Then I hired a private investigator. I told him what I needed, proof that Rick was having an affair. Photos, dates, times. Within 2 weeks, he handed me a file thicker than a church Bible. The final straw? Jenna was married. Her husband, Kyle, lived 2 towns over and had no idea. So I reached out to Kyle. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just sent him the photos, a few screenshots, and said, "I think you deserve to know." He called me. We talked for an hour. Turns out, he thought she was working late, too. She even had a fake name for Rick in her phone, Rachel, HR. Kyle was livid. "I don't want to hurt you," I said. "But maybe we can help each other." That's when we came up with a plan. Not to ruin them with violence, but to make sure they had to face the mess they made. Kyle was a contractor. Ran his own small business doing home remodels around Loveland. Built like a linebacker and had a voice that didn't rise, even when he was angry. The kind of guy who kept it all inside, until he didn't. We met in person a few days after our call at a diner halfway between our towns. He brought a notebook. I brought a flash drive with the PI's photos. "This her?" he asked, flipping through the pictures. "Yep," I said. "And that's Rick." He exhaled hard. Didn't say anything for a minute. Then he nodded. "All right, let's make this hurt." We started small. Kyle changed all the locks on their house and moved her stuff into trash bags on the front lawn. Jenna got home from her yoga class to find her life on display like a garage sale. No yelling. No scene. Just quiet humiliation. I waited another week. Then I left Rick. I told him over dinner. Cooked him his favorite meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans with bacon. He was halfway through the plate when I slid the divorce papers across the table. "What the hell is this?" "My exit." "You're not serious." "I am." "You've got until Friday to move out." He scoffed. I'm not leaving my house. It's not just your house. And I already talked to a lawyer. When I showed him the PI photos and the bank statements and the messages he thought he deleted, he turned pale. Then red. Then pale again. This is crazy, he muttered. You went behind my back? I learned from the best. He moved out 3 days later. But I wasn't done. Jenna didn't lose just her husband. Kyle also sent copies of the PI's photos to her workplace. Turned out she worked in a school district office. Her contract had a clause about conduct unbecoming. She didn't get fired, but she got moved to a desk job with no public interaction. Basically, she got benched. Rick thought he'd move in with her. Start a new life. But Kyle and I weren't the only ones watching. See, Rick's job had a strict code of conduct, too. And guess who handled their HR? One of my close friends. I never gave her direct instructions. But I may have accidentally left a folder of documents in her car one night. The kind with time-stamped photos and a breakdown of company policy violations. Rick got called into a meeting. He wasn't fired, but he was demoted. Pay cut, less responsibility, no work-from-home option. He started texting me again. I miss you. We can fix this. I made a mistake. I didn't reply. Instead, I mailed him a thank you card. Inside it, I wrote, "Thank you for teaching me to stop trusting people who don't deserve it." Then I blocked his number. But there was still one more card to play. The last twist came by accident. A month after Rick moved out, I got a letter in the mail from our mortgage company. Nothing strange, just routine paperwork since I was trying to refinance the house into my name only. But something in the file caught my eye. A second mortgage. Rick had taken out a loan against our house 6 months before I caught him cheating. 40 grand. Without telling me. I called the bank, thinking it was a mistake. Sorry, ma'am, the woman said. Both names are on the original loan. He was authorized. That's when the final piece fell into place. He hadn't just lied about Jenna. He'd secretly borrowed money behind my back, likely to fund their little getaway plans. Vacations. Running gear. Hotel rooms. Maybe even dinners at that cute bistro she posted about once on Instagram. I was beyond furious. I called my lawyer. He dug into it and found something even worse. Rick had also opened 2 credit cards under our joint name. I never saw the bills because he had them sent to his work address. He had run up close to $12,000 in charges. That changed everything in the divorce. Instead of a clean split, it turned into a court battle. And I had the documentation to back every single thing I claimed. Fraud, financial abuse, infidelity. My lawyer shredded him in mediation. Rick tried to play the victim, said I was spying on him, setting him up, ruining his life. The mediator didn't care, especially after seeing the PI report and the fake James story. In the end, the judge gave me the house. Rick was ordered to pay off the credit cards, refinance the second mortgage into his name alone, and give me back half of what I'd spent on legal fees. He tried to appeal. Lost. And Jenna? Well, she didn't want him anymore. She moved back in with her parents after Kyle threw her out. Her Instagram went dark. Rick posted a sad photo of his running shoes one day with the caption, "Starting over." No one liked it. Literally 0 likes. But here's the kicker. 6 weeks ago, I saw him at the grocery store. He looked thinner. Not in a healthy way, more like worn down. Hair messy. Eyes tired. He was standing by the bananas, staring at a bunch like he didn't know what they were. He didn't see me. I could have walked by. Could have said something. Could have ignored him. But I didn't. I walked right up, tapped him on the shoulder, and smiled. "You still running?" He blinked like I'd slapped him. "Not much these days," he muttered. "Shame," I said. "You always were good at running away." Then I walked off. He didn't try to follow me that day in the store. He just stood there, holding that stupid bunch of bananas, looking like he'd just realized the race he thought he was winning had already ended. And he'd lost. But I wasn't done. There was one last thing that kept nagging at me. One mistake I hadn't fully faced yet. Me. I had ignored the signs for months. Maybe years. I let things slide that I shouldn't have. I made myself smaller to keep the peace. I bent over backwards to stay in a marriage that was quietly falling apart long before Jenna ever showed up. So I did something for me. I took the trip. Not the one we used to take every summer to that worn-out cabin in Estes Park. No, this time, I booked a solo trip to Santa Fe. I stayed in a quiet adobe inn, ate at nice restaurants by myself, and hiked long desert trails with no one to wait on. No one to check in with. Just me. One evening, sitting on a terrace overlooking the mountains, I thought about everything. Rick, Jenna, the lies, the wasted years, the money, the humiliation. And then I thought about how I got the last word. He lost the house. He lost the job title. He lost both women. And every time he checks his credit score, he'll see my name burned into his financial ruin. But I also knew this. Revenge didn't fix everything. It didn't make those 13 years disappear. It didn't fill the bed at night. It didn't take away the trust issues that crept up in small, quiet ways even now. What it did do was give me back my spine. I returned home different. Stronger. Sharper. I joined a gym, not to look good for anyone else, but to feel like I could take up space again. I deleted all the old photos, blocked every number I needed to, and painted the living room a warm green that Rick would have hated. Then one night, out of nowhere, I got a letter. From Jenna. It was handwritten, shaky, 3 pages long. She apologized. Said she didn't know Rick was married at first, and by the time she found out, she was in too deep. She said she regretted everything, that he'd turned cold with her too, that she thought she was special but learned the hard way she was just convenient. She ended it with, "I hope you're doing okay. I hope you won." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I'd already won. Not because I destroyed them, but because I walked through the fire they lit and came out on the other side standing taller than I ever had. Rick ran. Jenna hid. I stayed, faced it, and rebuilt. And now, every time I lace up my shoes and go for a walk, I don't think about what I lost. I think about how far I've come.